Dave plays stuff. Apparently. Hello folks, as the intro suggests, I'm Dave. It's been a pretty good year for gaming, so I thought I would kickstart my channel and end the year with a top 5 games of 2013 list. Please bear in mind that these are all opinions and that I only own a PS3 and a PC, so unfortunately no other console exclusives on there. I've also managed to miss The Last of Us, which I feel I really would have enjoyed, so that's not on the list either. Anyway, without further ado, here are my top 5 games of 2013. Number 5. The Stanley Parable. Well, if you've seen any other top 5 or top 10 lists that include the Stanley Parable, you won't be surprised when I say that I'm not going to tell you anything about the Stanley Parable. This is the most unique gaming experience of this year, and it is not to be missed by anyone that considers himself a fan of video games in general. It stars the best narrator in anything ever, including Morgan Freeman, who will oftentimes fuck with your head in ways you will not expect. You will not see it coming. It's hilarious, it's cheap, and it's probably going to be on sale on Steam sometime soon. You should definitely check it out. My only criticism is it is a little bit short. Once you've discovered everything about the game, it doesn't have much replayability. That said, it is fantastic and you should buy it. Number 4. Gunpoint. Gunpoint is an espionage-based 2D puzzle game in which you sneak into buildings and steal and hack things for various reasons that I won't spoil. There's a really great simple set of mechanics behind the game that just work really flawlessly. I love them. The main one being wirejacking, in which you basically hack wires of different colours from different devices such as security cameras or motion detectors to change the function of them. So for example, you might have a security camera which is hooked up to an alarm. By default you change it to open a door so that when you walk into the camera the door opens, and you use this to get past the very lethal guards to get to your objectives and complete each level. The great thing about it is that there are multiple ways to solve every level, so each level has a certain level of replayability that you don't often find in other puzzle games. It's definitely a game that you can play the way you like, and this is reinforced by a progression tree that basically lets you spend money on different skills as you level up. So for example, there's a skill you can get where you can run into doors and the doors go flying and knock out the guard behind them. This is great, it makes things quicker, but it's also a lot noisier, brings the attention to the other guards. The only bad thing about it is I think really the story is told in a very mediocre way. It's just text, and the story itself is not groundbreaking, but no one cares because the gameplay itself is a lot of fun. There's a content creator in game, so you can play other people's levels, you can make levels for other people to play, so the amount of replayability is essentially infinite. So yeah, great little game, I would recommend that. Number 3. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. I was not expecting to have an Assassin's Creed game in my top 5. I have enjoyed the games before, mostly for the free running and the combat mechanics, not so much for the story. I also thought that the setting of the Assassin's Creed 3 wasn't that much different from Renaissance Italy, whereas Black Flag I think really steps up by having this huge open world Caribbean for you to explore, like full of shallow islands, jungles, shanty towns, and the ocean itself. Speaking of the ocean, as a pirate game, it should be the main focus, and I think Ubisoft have done an absolutely magical job with the naval combat. It was the highlight of Assassin's Creed 3 for me, and now they've improved it, made it a massive focus of the game, and it is just great. The feeling of freedom when you get out on the ocean with your own ship is phenomenal. The controls of the actual ship itself are tight, especially the weapons, and being able to switch from the ship controls to the free running and the combat mechanics you're used to is just joyful. Hunting down a ship, shooting at it, doing battle with it on the high seas, swinging across, kicking the crap out of the crew, stealing their loot and buggering off to your next victim is just amazing. It gives a really great range of scale that you can fight both on a ship to ship and a hand to hand basis. It makes the world feel a lot more bigger, uh, just more visceral. It just feels like the next logical step for the games to take. On top of this, the protagonist is just infinitely more likable than Connor Kenway. The supporting cast is, performances are all good, and even if you somehow dislike the superb naval combat, there's still a very good Assassin's Creed game in there for you to enjoy. Assassin's Creed 4 was probably the nicest surprise of this year. Number 2. Papers, Please. Describing this game to someone usually goes like this. So, what's this game about? Well, you play a border control agent for a fictional country known as Arstotzka. Your job is to check people's passports and either approve them or decline them for entering your country. Oh, that sounds boring. You'd think so. But Papers, Please is one of the most interesting games I've played this year. The basic premise of the game involves you checking people's passports for correct information. It starts simple with like date of birth, gender, etc. But as it goes on, each day it slowly ramps up the mechanics, increasing the number of things you need to check, adding in extras like work permits or identity cards for people from specific countries. On the side, the game pays you money for each person whose passport you stamp correctly. Getting it wrong by either missing an incorrect detail or turning away a perfectly valid passport nets you 2 warnings at first, I think, but eventually a small fine. Now, you use this money to support a small family who will get sick, hungry or cold if you fail to pay the bills. This means you have to be as quick as possible within the allotted time for each day, as well as make sure that you're doing your job right. This on its own is tense enough, like trying to make sure you do the job fast and well enough to keep your family alive, but then the game throws more at you, like moral decisions like pop up, like prompting you to make choices between doing the right thing for you or the right thing for the people that pass through your desk. For example, early on, this isn't too much of a spoiler, there's a woman who passes through. She tells you that the next man in line is her pimp and that he beats her and abuses her, and could you please not let him into the country? You'd be doing her a great favour. Now, you're thinking, oh sure, easy, but his passport checks out, like everything is perfectly valid. You then, entirely through using the game mechanics, you then have to make this moral decision, and it doesn't get easier than that. The game ramps up these things with like other subplots, other decisions to make, all within the game, still while having to maintain your speed and your accuracy. It's a perfect example of complex mechanics arising from really simple ones. The game interface itself is essentially just drag and drop, with a few things to click when you notice things are awry with someone's passport. Do not miss this game. If this sounds anything like your cup of tea, go and pick it up. Number 1. Grand Theft Auto 5. There is a reason GTA 5 sold 29 million copies. It is superb. Rockstar's flagship series brings together all the best mechanics from the past 4 years of Rockstar games, like the weapon wheel from the incredible Red Dead Redemption, the shooting mechanics from Max Payne 3, etc., as well as improving upon mechanics like the driving, which now feels a lot less sluggish and more responsive. Even bombing it through traffic now feels pretty damn awesome. But the best thing about GTA 5 really that I can say is that the game world is amazing. Rockstar have performed some kind of wizardry, sorcery crap with last generation's consoles, and Los Santos is an absolute marvel. The scale and attention to detail are obscene. The city and its NPCs kind of make it feel like a living, breathing world, which makes a perfect sandbox for those of us who just love causing mayhem. They've brought back the planes and the bikes, giving you things to do with them now, which makes you feel immediately like there's more content than there was in GTA 4. The story itself has been criticised, especially the protagonists, but I find that the 3 different personalities that you play, Trevor, Franklin and Michael, They have such vastly different personalities. So for the large part, when you switch, it changes how you play. For example, like Trevor, you tend to be more crazy, more explosive, more violent towards people. Whereas with Michael and Franklin, you tend to be a little more reserved in your violence. That might just be me, but I'm guessing not. GTA 5 has actually, made me role play more than a lot of recent RPGs. That's pretty funny when you think about it. I actually like the story as well. It's not so much another rags to riches story like Nico Bellic or CJ. It's more a tale about like career criminals doing what they do best. The payoff isn't quite as satisfying because of that, but it's still a very fun ride. The only points I can take away from GTA 5 come in the online portion of the game. It's not quite all that it could be, but if I'm honest, I'm expecting good things from it in the future, especially on the PC release, and it's certainly laid a great foundation for things to come. I have had a lot of fun with GTA 5. I've probably sunk 100 hours into it so far, and there's nothing really bad I can say about the gameplay or the world. It is spectacular and easily my game of the year. Thanks for watching, folks. If you'd like to see more, please feel free to subscribe, leave a comment or suggestion, or check out my Twitter feed. Bye for now.